this morning we looked at the significant growth and development for cloud in APJ. There's a real clear need and opportunity. And Wolfgang mentioned that up to 58% of organizations in this region actually have a plan to implement the cloud over the next 12 months. So who are these organizations? What's the journey they're on? And why are they moving to cloud? To bring some perspective to that, we've invited some forward thinkers who are really winning the race to cloud. And I'm delighted to introduce our panel. Firstly, from Hostworks, Adrian, Britton, the General Manager of Technology, Strategy and Innovation. From SingTel, Alvin, who's the Head of Information Services. Drossos is the Chief Executive Officer for CloudSite Development. And Edmund, the Director of IT Services, Monash University, Sunlight, Malaysia. Welcome. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us today. And particularly Alvin, who's been unwell and is making a special guest appearance just to be here today. So we really appreciate that. So thank you so much, everyone. So we've been talking a lot about cloud today, and all your organizations are at different stages in their journey. So maybe we can start off by giving our audience some perspective of your organization. If you can give me a bit of history, or so, what's happening within IT within your business. So, Adrian, maybe if I can start with you.
Sure, thanks, Richard. So, Hostworks is essentially a managed services organisation, specialising in services to online and digital media based in Sydney, Australia. Approximately 12 years ago, the history of the organisation is we responded to the requirements of Microsoft and a very large media organisation called PBL Media within the region to develop the technical management property around a MSN, a Microsoft network. We delivered the technical management of 9MSN, which for the Australian region is quite a major online property. The process and procedure of the regimen came around through the building of 9MSN, echoed rapidly through the online space. So before long we found ourselves managing and running some of the largest websites within the Australian region. After websites, we started focusing on the media industry, so we started delivering services to broadcasters. We deliver now services to 11 of the 13 broadcasters of Australia, including catch-up television and other technology services that these organisations consume. We've been partnering with HP for a number of years, delivering, in essence, our core product, which is our cloud computing product, which we call Elastic, in conjunction with some other technology that forms our content delivery mechanism. To answer your question, how has the use of technology evolved for us? Prior to deploying a cloud environment, prior to deploying Elastic, we found that our customers were ring-fenced, our customers were bound within a technology platform, and hence when they have a large event, a large publicity campaign, a large marketing promotion, they could not grow into the additional capacity that they required, and hence they were not able to service the audience at that particular moment and missed out on their moment of true shining. So with cloud provision, we were able to circumvent that problem and deliver them scaling technology solutions to grow as their audience grow.
Great. Because that's been a significant change moving from, I guess, a difficulty sometimes in provisioning. If you have online events, were you able to provision well before? Were you putting in too much capacity, too little?
Well, it always became a commercial balance of investing in too much technology for peak perceived load. That's the old world. To now at a stage where we have right-sized the amount of technology to the baseline load, or utility load as we call it, and we use a function called on demand to grow an elastic platform as the audience grows. Therefore, the commercials grow at the same time. So we scale and contract as the audiences scale and contract.
Great, thank you. So Alvin, SingTel, for our audience, if you could give us a bit of background and
speaking a bit soft. Fine. Okay. Well, SingTel is a 130 years old company. We are the largest telco player in Singapore with a market cap of 43 billion. With presence in more than 32 locations in the world, and one of the largest regional telco player in this part of the world. We embarked on the cloud as part of the SingTel transformation. 5 years ago, we talked about 1.0, where we are just basically a telco player providing pipes to mobile customers and fixed line and home. Moving forward, in telco 2.0, we move into managed services, system integration. We think that moving beyond the vision of SingTel is really to move from being just a telco player into a full end-to-end ICT provider. So telco 1.0 is basically what typical telco does. Telco 2.0 with our 100% own entity system integration company called NCS. We are able to provide beyond just the pipes and the networking and data transmission into system integration managed services. And then Telco 3.0 is where we embark on what we call the cloud services, everything on demand. So that's part of the transformation. As far as IT is concerned, I think cloud is really an evolution. People look at it and initially there's apprehension in terms of, hey, what does this mean for IT or for security concern? But I think the benefit, like what Adrian mentioned, is after a while you realize that, hey, if I need to launch a new product, I need to do some new solution, new software migration. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of money spent on buying equipment, buying server storage, and waiting for a delivery time of about a month or two, and then planning for the migration, the integration, and after that, what do you do when you finish your project? What do you do with all the equipment and all the storage and all these things that equipment that you buy? Do you just leave it there to wait for the next project? And also the time. So with cloud, they realize that, hey, I could start a project very quickly, within weeks or even within days to get the capacity needed from computing power storage, and then just move on. After the project, you move from having to justify for capital expenditure, buying equipment, into just taking as a project cost. So you move from a capex into an opex model. It works well for the IT. It simplifies the complexity for IT projects as well.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So, John, if you could tell us about your organization.
Well, unlike SingTel, we are not 130 years old. I started the company with a close friend and longtime business partner in Dallas, Texas, in November of 2009. By December of 2009, I moved to Beijing, opened an office there, and spent the next 12 months building and assembling what I thought was the best design and engineering team for data centers in the world. HP CFS was a foundation partner in our design team, and we set out to design and build the first cloud computing data center in China. As evidenced by the turnout for this event, cloud computing is certainly a good story in the Asia-Pacific region. In China, it's a great story, and that's why I'm there.
So has it already been received so far?
Well, generally speaking, IT managers and decision makers in China are really no different than other IT managers and decision makers across the world. They're very conservative, more or less risk averse, and very focused on reliability and making sure their applications and their production environments stay up and that they're reliable. And that's the key thing. But IT managers in China are also enamored what they've done in the past, and that they really settled for legacy or hand-me-down technology that is proven, that's been in the market, and is highly reliable. These Chinese IT managers are going to have to step out a little bit and look at new solutions and facility solutions to better accommodate cloud computing. So our challenge is to make sure that we create a compelling solution for these decision makers, but at the same time allow them to move to cloud without having heart failure. And so that's the goal.
Right. Okay. So Edmund, why not if you could fill us in about your organisation and where you're up to?
Monash University has been in Malaysia for over a dozen years. It was a really small setup to begin with, but in about 2005 we had only 2,000 students and about 200 staff members. We were delivering services to the customers in a traditional way, and everything was really good. It was going fine, we were meeting expectations of the business. However, then we moved to a new campus, and we actually set up 2 campuses within Malaysia. And in 2 years' time, we doubled the amount of student numbers to over 5,000, and doubled the number of staff members. And the diversity and complexity of moving in such a rapid growth was a nightmare for us. We couldn't keep up. We couldn't meet expectations. I was literally pulling my hair out. And that's where we looked at and just turn around and look back and say, hey, wait a minute, we're doing something wrong here. And we started our partnership with HP and Microsoft, and then we looked into different technologies in terms of changing the ways that we deliver services. And that's where virtualization and consolidation of servers came into it and helped us tremendously. And now we are able to provide and support 6,000 students and over 800 students from a facility in KL, with even to our satellite campus in Johor Bahru.
Okay, very good. So, firstly, I just want to say that there must be no hair jokes, okay? Because I'm holding on to each one of mine right now. So that's great. We have a perspective of some very different organizations at different stages of their development and different sizes, offering services to other organizations internally, to different clients, but all looking at different aspects of cloud and how that can change the game. So maybe, given that, I could ask you, when did cloud first appear on the horizon? What really drew you to cloud? So maybe, Adrian.
So for us, it's, as I mentioned before, became a question around allowing us to grow our environment to meet demands of the events that were occurring within the Internet of Australia. We focused our first major launch around a soccer event. So one of the television channels in Australia called SBS had the digital rights for the Soccer World Cup. So this is the Soccer World Cup in 2010. We delivered them a service, a scaling service to allow them to cater for the online delivery of the Soccer World Cup, the World Game as it was known. And as the games went by, so the compute platform grew and contracted. One particular game, I believe, was a threefold increase in audience numbers, and hence we were able to keep up with that audience demand and allow the infrastructure to grow and to keep the user experiences how SBS would require it.
So it really was that you have a broadcasting unpredictable demand, and it sounds like the solution was very obvious.
Indeed, that's exactly right.
Okay, very good. And you mentioned something interesting to me earlier around your view of IT essentially becoming like power and water.
Sure, yes. I think certainly in Australia the IT industry is maturing, and I believe also over the region. It is not unreasonable to consume compute, networking, storage the same way that you and I would consume water or power at home. So you consume the amount you require and you pay according to your consumption, as opposed to over-provisioning, which is a method of the past.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you. So, Alvin, what really drew SingTel into New Valley?
Well, I think this is Singapore has got this plan called the 2015 plan by the Infocomm Development Authority of Singapore quite a long time ago, almost 10 years ago. And one of the plans is really to make Singapore an intelligent island. And the implementation of the intelligent island is the require every offices, every household, with optical fiber up to 200 megabyte of transmission speed. And that was implemented, in fact, it's still ongoing, but when there was a model, SingTel had it and said, hey, what's going to happen with very high bandwidth? What are those people going to do with high bandwidth? If you do not have application and usage for that. So 3 years ago, we embarked on a project in collaboration with HP and the Infocomm Development Authority to develop what we call the first cloud computing solution or services for Singapore itself. And then basically leveraging on HP technology, we provide infrastructure as a service to companies and in Singapore itself. And SingTel, as far as SingTel is concerned, we see this as moving beyond just providing what we call our telco 1.0, 2.0 into what we call smart pipe. When we provide pipes, we provide data transmission. We also provide what we see as the intelligent utility, the ability for customers to use solution on a pay-per-use on demand basis, not just for the bandwidth, including computing power, storage power, software as a service as well on a pay-per-use. So that changed the whole business model of SingTel, and we see this as a very important stage of our innovation.
Okay, thank you. So John, you not only saw the opportunity in cloud, but you saw it specifically in China. What drove you to
I did. You know, my background, I've been in the private equity business for over 20 years, and we, over time, have invested in a lot of different types of technology-related businesses. We had one investment in a managed services business that we were in for about 9 years, and we operated 7 data centers from 1999 to 2008, and I got to see a lot of the early adoption of utility computing, which eventually became the basis for cloud computing, and got to understand the benefits and why I could see people getting excited about cloud. But there was a disconnect for me in trying to understand, well, if you have this application and the ability to do computing on an ad hoc basis, very economically, you have the facilities to do it. And, you know, frankly, cloud computing and the cloud and cloud computing is the facilities. So I thought, you know, that the opportunity was big enough in China, and depending on what research you read, you'll see growth rates in cloud computing compounded over the next 5 years from 25 as high as 46%. I like that math. And that's the kind of growth market that I want to participate in. So having facilities that are scalable and flexible enough to accommodate the growth in cloud in China got me excited about it.
Was there a role of government? Did you see a role of government policy and regulation playing into that?
Well, you know, I'm seeing a little bit of that now, and we're experiencing that in China. In the United States, in 2004, there was a tremendous amount of vacant data center space in the U.S. that was left over from the dot-com bust. I mean, data centers everywhere. And from 2004 to 2007, all that space was absorbed. And one of the key drivers to that in the United States was, if you're familiar with Sarbanes-Oxley, government regulatory changes and mandates that required how companies manage customer data, and basically putting data, customer data, in a secure facility off-site, just absorbed all this space. So I'm starting to see a little bit of that in China as well. We're seeing in banking that there are now regulations around banking in China where the large money center banks is being mandated to move their production environments to mainland China. So with that, if you couple that with cloud, there's going to be a huge demand for space, and I think a relatively small supply for this next generation of computing.
Okay, thank you. Edmund, so what was it that drew you to cloud?
Well, we were armed with a roadmap for private cloud, and we were getting virtualization, we were happy with the technology and everything was better down, patting ourselves on the back. And give an example of how it first came up. We never really understood the benefits of the cloud until we had a project where we had to deliver, I think sometime in 2008, a CRM project that we had to go and reach almost different continents throughout the world. Having thinking in a traditional manner, we tried to deliver the project and it took us 6 to 7 months just provision, run it, test it, implement it within our infrastructure, and we couldn't get the same results that we required. It was not going the way we wanted. And that's where cloud services came in. We tried a different product, and within weeks of negotiation, we were able to deliver a product to reach all our customers. And the best part of it is we could easily turn it off when the campaign was done. And that gave us the business the flexibility of designing and making decisions to move them in a more effective manner. And that really changed our perspective on things and literally just gave us a different perspective on all cloud.
So it seems like there's a variety of drivers, but certainly it sounds like there's a real combination of both the technical capability and the business need, as we were talking about earlier today. So maybe with that we can explore and just really get a slightly deeper understanding of what you've done, where that's up to, and also if there's any learnings that I think you'll do differently, or any sage advice you'd like to give to people in that process.
Probably about 2.5 years ago, we invested heavily in automation tool sets. We run the premise within the organisation that you automate or you die. You have to have the computers covering the mundane tasks. You cannot rely on the humans to do it time and time again in time frames that's required to be in your industry that we work in. So certainly automation is probably the first step along the path. We then entered into a go-to market to look for technologies that would cover the compute and the networking and the storage aspects. So that brought the second component into the mix, and effectively we've converged our networking onto the cloud service platform at that stage. Some of the changes that had to be made along the way was a fundamental change in how the business went to market. We were no longer consuming, we were no longer selling a fixed rate asset for a fixed rate term, and hence we were selling variable contracts, which in turn had to change the way that sales teams were compensated and the whole go-to-market strategy had to change. So with the advent of technology, with the addition of additional technologies, so sales processes had to change, and so did the operational processes, and effectively there was a role for the whole organisation that occurred on the back of moving to the cloud.
So it was partly a technical work, but you actually had a whole lot of business change to take with the business model change.
That's correct.
And I know you're considering, as you move forward, cloud-first, or particularly drawing in assets and capacity from other providers of external source to add to your automated service capability. Is that where you're going now?
That's correct. Hostworks is a very innovative organisation. We never stand still for long. The next stage, as you mentioned, would be to use compute storage, networking assets in different geographies, effectively bursting our private cloud into a provision of another organisation or into the public cloud domain.
Thank you. So Alvin, what have you done? Where's it up to? Any learnings in the process?
Okay, when we started 3 years ago, we looked at it. SingTel has got a lot of data center in this part of the world, and we say, and we do have all different type of brands of building IT and HP, etc. And we look at it and say, okay, this is what we need to do. We have decided to start a whole new business unit called Cloud Computing Services. Invest in new technology, new hardware equipment. Just focusing on it. We don't believe that people talk about cloud computing since 1990s. I don't think there's cloud computing. I think if you are in managed hosting, managed services, you're just rebranding it and say, hey, I'm in cloud computing. There's some source services. We view cloud computing totally very different. Like some of the panels here talk about the virtualization, the security that you need to build, and more importantly, what is involved in just providing pay per use on CPU, on storage, on bandwidth, is it's no use to any customers unless you have a big enterprise who want to port your application onto it for a short term of 1 month, 2 months. But for general across SMEs and companies, they look at the usage beyond that, what application. So with that, in collaboration with HP, 3 years ago we launched what we call a brand called SingTel, which is the first cloud computing solution in this part of the world, and it's the largest cloud computing solution. To date, I think we have something like 4,000 core with more than 140 terabytes of storage. And in the last 3 years, in fact, the usage, we have 150,000 users on our software as a service. That includes things like CRM on demand, like people on demand, one office, and also something like 800 enterprise customers using our infrastructure as a service for various different reasons and projects. Some in terms of data center consolidation, some in terms of data analysis, some in terms of software migration, etc. So, moving forward, I think we realize that, hey, cloud, if you're providing cloud in terms of just infrastructure as a service, the paper-use, storage paper-use, etc., it's just no different from what we call a dump pipe. We are looking at what we call a smart cloud. A smart cloud will also evolve into just beyond application, beyond infrastructure and service, into things like what other service relating to the cloud that offload the IT manpower costs, the managed services, the additional facility management services, and what additional services that we can move into. And moving beyond that, I think we are also seeing a lot of customers are looking at what's going to happen to me. I'm using a cloud here, but I have an office in Hong Kong and business in Taiwan. How do I leverage on that? So people are looking at, hey, what is beyond local cloud into regional cloud? And enterprises who have their own private cloud set up. Let's put it this way. Companies will not say, hey, let's put everything on the cloud and forget about having your own IT infrastructure. It will never happen. Whether you're a financial institution or manufacturing, you always want to have your own IT department. For whatever good reasons, I think there are good reasons to have that. But beyond that, how do you scale up? How do you maximize the usage in terms of ability to move from private cloud to hybrid private cloud and utilize the cloud hosting capability for applications that are not as mission critical or not as security required, when data needs to reside in the country where your head office is. I think that's very clear in all the financial institutions. Everywhere we are back, there are certain regulations in Singapore, in Hong Kong, and in China coming up that certain data needs to reside in the country of residence. But beyond that, how do you leverage on the cloud technology beyond that? So I think moving forward, we call it maybe Telco 4.0, which is basically the regional cloud technology.
Great, thank you very much. So John, what have you done and very fed up to?
Well, my investment thesis to come to China and pursue this business was to design and develop the first cloud computing data center in China. There are a lot of traditional facilities, the data center facilities in China, and a typical traditional facility, how I would define it, is an older facility that really is designed to manage applications that are more in steady state and are running either continuously and all the time. Cloud facilities are very different. So we set out to build the first cloud computing facility in China. We launched our first project in the TINA outsourcing park, NI outsourcing park in Tianjin. Tianjin is about 112 kilometers southeast of Beijing, in cooperation with the TINA government entity there. This project is 38,000 square meters in 2 phases, 2 buildings. So each building is 4 floors, 1 central plant floor, and then 3 individual independent data halls. So I can provide enterprise class services to 1 large enterprise user or 3 individual users in the facility. And it's a very flexible and modular facility. I can offer low density computing and low redundancy computing, as well as high density and high redundancy, tier 1 to tier 3. So it's a flexible design that we spent a lot of time developing, and we think it's very unique in the market.
So you actually mentioned the term there, cloud-enabled data center. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I think when you compare a traditional facility to a cloud facility, there are 2 things that you have to have in a cloud-enabled facility. You have to be able to flex to load, and you have to be able to do it efficiently. So to give you an example, and I was talking to Adrian before we got started, he might have an issue with a developer that comes to him in his organization. He told me they don't do a lot of software development, so they don't have a huge amount of infrastructure to do software development. But they might have a problem in their business where they need to create a solution very quickly to solve a problem. So the developer comes to Adrian and says, look, I need 1,000 servers. We've got to come up with this. It's mission critical, and we have to have it by Tuesday. I need the computing capability to do it. So if Adrian is dealing with a partner or a service provider that's dealing or is working within a traditional environment, he'll call that service provider and say, I need 1,000 servers from 9 in the morning till 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And I need you to provision those servers, and then we'll be finished. Well, in a traditional environment, that provisioning is a fair amount of work. But the provisioning starts at 9 o'clock. When those servers light up, there are sensors in the cabinets that detect heat elevation for the servers. More power coming, more heat. So the room starts to heat up. And these sensors detect the heat elevation, tell the cooling system, we need more air, need more cool air to cool it down. And that goes on from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon for that environment. Well, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Adrian's group is finished. They're not using the servers anymore. Well, to ramp down that cooling and get things back into a normal state, it's not that easy in a traditional environment. In a cloud environment, in a flexed load type situation, Adrian would go online, provision the services. At 9 o'clock, those servers would start to light up. Well, before they even start, what we do in our facility, when we say flex to load, we don't look for temperature elevation after the room has heated up to start cooling it. We monitor the power going to the servers before the room even heats up. And so we're in effect 1 step ahead of the load in cooling the room. So our cooling is starting in advance of the room heating up. So that goes on depending on the usage over that 9 o'clock to 3 p.m. Period. At 3 o'clock, when Adrian's finished, I ramp down and I'm finished. And I can take on a provisioning of another application or for another customer, but my facility has been able to flex to load and has done it in a very energy efficient way. I think those are the 2 key things.
Right.
Cloud.
Can I ask you a quick supplementary as well? Because you've clearly gone through a very exhaustive process. It's been a really big decision. So, if there's any steps you've taken along the way you think have been really critical for you to ensure you get that successful outcome?
Well, in China, my new best friend, PP Fu, with HP, I got to know PP and was fortunate to know him when I first got to China. In making a big commitment, it was very clear to me for CloudSite to be successful in China, we had to have 3 things. We had to have a world-class design that was very unique to the market, a cloud facility, cloud data center. We also needed a large multinational company with a great presence in China to help us get our business started. And certainly HP has been most accommodating in that regard. And the third piece is to have a relationship with a government entity that is bought into the vision of what we're trying to do with our product. And what's what's happened in Tianjin, the Tibet government there has been an incredible partner. They're actively involved in this project, and they really see the benefit of having this type of facility in their province. So those three things have been very important in our development.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So Edmund, where are you on to, and how's that process going? Any learnings to share with people?
Well, we've certainly learned a lot from all our mistakes inside of that. With virtualization and technology and moving towards a private cloud, we have three principles that we embedded a couple of years ago. One significant one, which we still got to today in the team, is that the systems must work for us. It's changing the mindset. Currently, to give you an idea, it took us maybe 3 to 4 weeks just to provision a server just to go through the normal procurement process, approval processes. And adding computing resources to a particular server was basically really tedious and was really hard to do. Now, we can deliver a service, increase the computing resources in a matter of minutes. But having said that, we still have to keep in mind also all the different opportunities that are available. So legacy systems are being managed, and we have about 150 odd servers, and we have 3 team members basically in the server team just looking after them. And so legacy systems are still on board in our campus, we're still safeguarded, locked and keyed. But most of the other new systems that we deploy, for example, library systems, our CRM systems, our HR systems, are all going to the cloud, already are on the cloud. Our messaging and collaboration systems are all to cloud-based because it's just more efficient and more effective. And the business really enjoys it from the understanding from a cost perspective because the OpEx in that is really clear. And there's so many different opportunities available, but it really depends on the environment. So for us, it's a kind of a hybrid kind of a mixture that we're going on, but leaning towards the cloud.
So have you taken the approach that this is essentially a foundation for your future cloud services and development?
Definitely so.
Okay, very good, thank you. So I have one last question. So we came here today, we talked about the opportunity. Very big changes happening in our region that present challenge and opportunity. And marrying that against this new way of doing things with cloud. So to come back to why you're here, your business, if I could ask you, now you're where you are in your journey, what does that mean for your business?
So for Hostworks, it's simply meant agility to respond to our customers' needs in the time that the media industry demands within Australia.
And I know you've got some examples. There seem to be a lot of sporting ones. You talked about the World Cup and Tour de France attempting to scale up for that.
That's right. Tour de France was fairly recent. I think Tour de France went through a greater than 10-factor growth during the event. Our world is full of unpredictable consumer demand, unpredictable audience growth. So yes, the future is very much to do with having platforms and delivering content that scales as the audience scales.
Right. And one other thing I know about Hostworks is a very important outcome for you is the user experience.
Yes, so we are very strict on the service levels that we provide. We ensure that service levels, that the user experience is maintained, and that's the user experience as measured from the consumer of the service, from the audience on the internet. So we put in place a lot of safeguards to ensure that we are able to deliver the applications and the video content to a level and responsiveness demanded by the audience. And thankfully, through the journey that we've got on PHP, we're able to achieve that.
So would it be too much to say that this really is enabling a new business model?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Alvin, from SingTel's perspective, what does this mean for your business for your customers?
There are a couple of, based on SingTel, there are a couple of things we look at. Firstly, SingTel wants to be an innovative company. We want to provide innovative solutions to our customers. Based on that vision, we also talk about the ability to partner business for success as well as to provide best-of-best solutions to our customers. Now, with the cloud and all this, I think the user experience is very important. We talk about self-service provisioning, customers able to provision their own usage and joint mention as and when you need. partners like HP, we actually evolved into what, in fact, 3 years ago we called it Adapter 1.0. Now we actually moved into what we call Adapter 2.0, with more technology, advanced application that are cloud enabled, refreshing basically our first cloud offering into a lot more intelligent cloud offering, and moving into beyond just a local cloud. I talk about federated cloud and the regional cloud itself. So I think that's very important in order to support our customers who are not just in Singapore but also moving into the region itself. Southeast Asia is very unique in the sense that in the US and in Europe, you are multinational, and only when you are big enough and venture outside. Whereas in Southeast Asia, even SMEs will have offices beyond Singapore, in Malaysia, in Thailand, even in China and Hong Kong. So you're not just, cloud is not just meant for either SMEs or enterprises. I think you see that eventually the SMEs will probably be the one who benefit most moving into the cloud once the momentum kicks in. I think
You had a great example of that.
yeah, we do have customers who recently, I think 2 months ago, when we launched a partnership with SAP for SAP demand, and we have a customer who say, hey, this is great. Since when SAP been one of the top software company, and they are considered a high-price company. And in the early days, I think those of us who are old enough to be around, we don't have more than $1 million to spend in SAP. But things have changed. 2 months ago, when we launched that SAP demand, you're talking about users on the pay-per-use SAP solution on the cloud. Yeah, and the customer came to us. Not sure whether I can name the customer because I not that approval from him and said, hey, when I developed this is an SME Florist company, and since when I developed my own ERP for online ordering of Florist and all this, I spent $500,000 in the last couple of years just developing an application and maintaining it every year. Now you're talking about software solution on demand, probably costing like $30,000 a year, based on 5 to 10 years compared to the amount of money you have to spend in developing this solution and maintaining this solution.
Significant change
Yeah.
in both the customers.
Right. Even the cost saving is, you go from anything from 70 to even 90% cost saving. The other very great example that we encountered last year when we had the Singapore developer, the first developer in the world, and first time in Singapore, and they were the first alumni that utilized cloud. And based on the amount of usage, the amount of saving, we are talking about almost 85% saving on CapEx, on the cost of having to implement solution to do the scheduling of the games, monitor the games, the games application. So those are some of the very good examples of why cloud has been successful, why the momentum on a large scale projects like developing the multinational companies and creating cloud. Eventually, I think you'll filter down to even SMEs, the forward-looking SMEs eventually embrace it because they see significant advantage and significant cost saving utilizing cloud to help them really to grow their business. Their focus is really to focus on their business and not on their IT.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. John, for you. So, business outcome for you.
Well, I think my fellow panelists in their businesses are very different, and I think it's clear that cloud computing will create some incredible opportunities and new business models for them to pursue. My deal is a little different. If I don't have cloud and I'm not successful delivering cloud and cloud facilities, I don't have a business model, I don't have a business. So, I mean, I think enough of the market in China and the growth and the opportunities that cloud computing really to make a career bet. And that's the way I describe it. I moved to China. I moved with my family. I have 3 young kids. And we all made the move. So, we bought the religion and we're going about it full blast. The type of facility that we want to deliver, if the market accepts it. When I mentioned what we're doing in Tianjin, it is a cloud-enabled facility. It is flexible. It's energy efficient. It allows an end user to reduce their utility costs by up to 50%. And here's the best thing. The cooling solution requires no water. So the emphasis on sustainability and green technologies, I can deliver an energy efficient solution that requires no water to deliver. So the 2 things that I've been focused on and what we're trying to do with our design and development team, having a solution that will flex to load and is energy efficient. Today in China, there are some data centers that I would consider energy efficient data centers. I don't know of one that has a facility that truly flexes to load. So I think I have the design and the technology to go do it. And if I can do it in China, I think there are a lot of other places I can do it as well.
So you have a very big business outcome because this will be your business. So this is what it's all about, right? Okay, and Edmund, for Monash, how's it impacted your business?
Significantly. Our internal units, operational and service delivery, the whole model just had to be rewritten. We've changed the way we operated. The business now looks at us as a cost-saving unit rather than traditionally in the finance matters. They've always been too concerned about IT because we're just driving up costs, CapEx, OpEx. Now the finance director is my best friend. We'll be able to provide solutions for them more flexible and giving them a very clear indication of what is going to cost the business. And the business has the ability and the choice now to make those decisions either to turn it on, turn it off, or to scale or to grow depending on the different options that we have. And that gives us a really good position right now to help the business.
So that's a pretty good outcome if your finance manager is your best friend. That really is a big business outcome. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing your journey. Clearly, there's quite a lot of opportunity there. It's very interesting to read all our content. Before we finish up here, I'd like just to ask our Vice President for Virtualization and Cloud, to come up, who can give us a little bit of perspective on how he sees this rolling out and broader trends around our region. If you'd like to join us.
Thank you, Richard. It's always a pleasure for me to join our customers on stage for such discussions, and warm welcome to our distinguished media from the APJ region. So I'll talk a little bit about broad adoption that we are seeing in the APJ region. I have to give credit to the telcos in this region, such as SingTel, for really driving the adoption for cloud. I think telcos have had the network infrastructure and the data bandwidth to, on top of that, build the public cloud business. And Singapore particularly, I believe as a country, has led in this with all major telcos, SingTel and other 3 major telcos getting into the public cloud business. And because they are starting the public cloud business, they're also internally then setting that up for the private cloud. And I think in certain cases, like SingTel, I believe you started with public cloud and then you went back and did the private cloud. So they are sort of eating their own dog food, right? Now, when you look at other countries, it's no different. We see that all major telcos in this region, whether it's SKT in Korea or it's Telstra in Australia, NTT Docomo in Japan, and so forth, they are all getting into cloud. Now, such a difference you could find in like India, for instance, where certain IT companies or IT-enabled companies are perhaps getting faster into public cloud than the telcos. And then you have countries like Nepal or Sri Lanka, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, everybody, all major telcos looking at getting into public cloud. Private cloud, I would would say in general across the region, verticals like manufacturing, finance, companies in these verticals who have big investments in IT, legacy IT, they probably feel the more burden of the issues with the legacy IT. So they are further ahead in embracing private cloud and moving towards it, versus certain other verticals like healthcare or retail do not necessarily have big IT investments, are looking at public cloud. They are perhaps okay to go and leverage public cloud. Again, if you look by countries, there would be certain differences. In India, I feel IT-enabled companies are embracing private cloud faster than any other vertical, but so are manufacturing and financial companies. In Australia, high degree of virtualization that almost all enterprise customers have gone through. They've had a good Blaze adoption. On top of that, standardization, they have built virtualization. So they're all looking at private cloud, irrespective of what vertical they are. Again, for countries like Hong Kong, perhaps it's more education, more retail that's going into private cloud. But in general, I would say manufacturing and financing, big adoption there.
So I'd like to ask you one more question. Are there any best practices that you see for organizations who are making this journey?
Yeah, I'll answer that question in a second, but I'll also say government, in a big way, is embracing private cloud, especially to go into public utility services. We see government of Singapore, we see Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, some of these governments, and Australia, big way, public utility services. How do you internally provide those services fast enough to all the different government units? So coming to best practices, I think we've had some great examples here on stage. I would say there are two main things that I hear from customers. One is, what is the business driver? And second is, what is the state of the IT? And when do they start on cloud? And if a customer has not even standardized the environment and they're still dealing with legacy IT, they haven't moved to an environment like Blaze or virtualization, then perhaps their priority is to cut down the cost from the environment and drive better efficiency, better agility, and get rid of that rigid infrastructure issues that they have. And those customers would perhaps look at Blaze virtualization, and they're also thinking, what is the delta to jump right into cloud rather than virtualization, and making those evaluations. And I think Monash University said it, that it's a particular project, the next project you're looking at. The question is cloud the right way to do it? And again, it was the business driver where you needed the agility and the scalability to get to all the different students and the workload. So you take the next project and look if cloud can help you and get on that. A lot of customers are getting into private cloud. I think CIOs are not questioning what or why cloud, but they're looking at how do we get started and what's the easy way to get started, and then we brought out the roadmap. And in that, I think test and development is one way that most CIOs are getting into it, but they're also looking at the next project, whether it's CRM or it's just getting the speed of provisioning and reprovisioning resources so that they are able to meet the business requirements that's driving it. Now, if you're a customer today who's already virtualized, standardized, then you're probably looking at, how do I set up my IT so that the business transformation that my company is going through, I'm ready to support that in a big way. And that's leading most customers to cloud. And I think there are enough examples here of business transformation. And again, what's the delta to get to cloud? Is automation the bridge to get to private cloud and start to consume IT as a service internally? And once you consume IT as a service internally, you're then ready to go into public cloud. Right? And I get surprised that 60-70% of our CIOs, when we ask the question, what about public cloud? While there's hesitancy to go into public cloud, but they are still experimenting with one or two services which are not mission critical, and they're using it in their environment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those insights. Thank you, Edmund. So we're pretty much right on time here. So I'd like to thank you all sounds like you're definitely well on the journey and bringing both the business opportunity and the IT together. So best of luck with your future endeavors with cloud and APJ. And again,